Welcome to another installment of As the Wheel Turns, So Do the Days of Our Rides, Las Vegas style. Anyway, special report from Las Vegas. We're talking about some local news in my neighborhood, not particularly here in Las Vegas, but actually in Fort Collins, Colorado. We've had some interesting changes of bike shop shift, and you will notice there's a Trek versus Specialized persona going on. I want to kind of reiterate what's going on and give a little bit of history. What has laid out in the last few years, starting in 2002. That's when I started working at Lease Cyclery in Fort Collins, Colorado, which they carried Specialized and Trek in the same store. A couple years after working there, Trek and Specialized, that's when they started deciding to do their concept stores, which is dividing them up between, you're either a Trek dealer or a Specialized dealer, and that's kind of broke everything up. So our competition, Peloton, was a Specialized dealer with concept, and Lee's was a Trek concept store. So Trek and Specialized have been combating it over and over for the last, in Fort Collins, the last 10, 15 years. Well, when Trek was kind of doing a little bit of shake-up in the mid 2000 teens, that was, and Lee Cyclery wanted to specialize back. The competition had some shakiness, so they were able to get specialized back. So when I was working there in 2017 or so, that's when he was able to get specialized back. So we had Trek and Specialized back in the same roof again, which back in the heyday, they're doing great. And Lee Cyclery has 3 locations in the North Colorado area. So 2 in Fort Collins, 1 in Loveland. So it was a pretty good, pretty big footprint, right? So when Lee's decided to sell to Trek corporate, those 3 locations became Trek stores only, and Specialized got booted out. So the last 5 years, Specialized has been trying to find a shop that can really represent their brand. They've kind of played with several different shops in the area, as well as Jack's Outdoor Stuff, which is kind of a weird store. It's kind of, I don't know. Anyway, so they really haven't got a foothold in the Fort Collins area again after they lost the position with Trek, or with Lee's, and when Trek took over. So fast forward 5 years later, the owner of Lee's owns the buildings. So he sold the business, but didn't sell the building. So when Trek and him came back to the table in winter, around January, I believe, to re-sign a longer lease, because the lease came up in 5 years, negotiations broke down, and lo and behold, Trek decided to consolidate 2 of the locations to 1, which I've reported this on before. And now, since they have going to 1 location in June here in 2023, that opens up the other 3 locations to be released, yeah, rented out anyway. So yeah, the big shakeup was the 1 location north, which is by CSU campus, has been a bike shop since the 60s. So it's one of those staples of Fort Collins cultural, historical kind of thing, where it's always been a bike shop. And then locals have been kind of like, oh man, we're going to lose our local bike shop, kind of thing. And bike shops come and go, it's one of those things that's constant rotation. But we're in a situation now where small mom and pop shops are disappearing, more niche ones are around, and there's Trek, Specialized, and Pond, or the other 3 big fish are just buying up shops and making their own corporate direct. So here comes the battleground. Battleground again in North Colorado in Fort Collins and Loveland area. Specialized signed those 3 locations that Trek is moving out. The huge benefit to Specialized is those locations have been bike shops for a lot. One's been since the 60s, other one's been in since the 90s, and the newer one in Loveland, it's always been a bike shop in the last, I don't know, what was it, 15 years, so 16 to 18 years. So those locations, so regardless if you know any dynamics of the history of bike shops and what's going on, if you roll up to one of those locations thinking it's a bike shop, and all of a sudden it switched from Trek to Specialized, you may not even know the difference. I mean, you'll walk in and be like, oh, okay, this is a little bit different than I imagined, but it's been switched out for sure. So, but it also a benefit of just foot traffic from Specialized. They were already bike shops, so they're already laid out. So it's really easy to just slide in, put up some fixtures and some bikes. They have other own shops in Colorado, so they'll be able to build up inventory and push it through. The biggest challenges they're going to have is staffing, and that's with pretty much everybody is staffing right now, right? So regardless of being able to inventory in those locations, staffing is probably going to be the biggest hurdle. Finding those mechanics and those managers and the salespeople to be able to support 3 locations. That's a pretty big lift. And to do it, represent it correctly, right? I've worked in all 3 of those locations. So the North location, you're looking at in the heyday when I started working there in 2002, we had like, I don't know, 12 to 15 full-time employees through the season. The South store off of Harmony was a bigger footprint, more of a suburban setting by tech companies, and plus that was the where they did a lot of building and so forth to support the other 2 stores. That had more to 15 to 20 employees, and then the Loveland store has always been kind of slower, so 3 to 5, employees there. So, Specialist is going to have its challenges, but the caveat is they're going to have 3 key locations, and since they've been selling to leads through several decades, they'll have some numbers to work with to understand the market and so forth. So they're not going blind whatsoever. So those are the hot topics. So it's going to be a big old battleground. Coming up this summer. I believe Specialized is going to hit the ground running as soon as those stores become available at the end of June. I would be surprised they'd be opened up like the first or second week of July. It's going to be insane. And then everybody who's looking for a Trek is going to roll up to a Specialized store going, well, where's the Trek store? So it's a quarter mile that way or half a mile that way. So um, anyway, that's one of those things where the whole Trek Specialized saga and corporate, battleground is right in my backyard. It's going to be interesting to see how those roll out. Just want to let those viewers out there, and I'm on vacation, obviously, so I figured I'd take a hot minute here and let you guys know. Trek and Specialized, they're going at it, and they're going in the backyard, and we'll see how both stores basically develop, and basically it's pretty interesting because instead of just losing 1 to 3 locations or a couple locations, now we're getting 4 bike shops and solid brands, and Specialized is coming back with a pretty big foot forward into the Fort Collins market area in Colorado. So anywho, I figured I'd share that hot topic news from a special report from Las Vegas. Anyway, hope you guys have a great coming weekend. My videos of long content will continue starting probably Tuesday, Wednesday. I unfortunately didn't get a lot of material together before I left. I do have a lot shot, and before you know it, you'll see a lot more tech videos, and also this old bike series where that becomes what people are really interested in seeing. So until next time, stay tuned. I'll bring up any other heads up notifications of as the wheel turns so the days are lies. You guys have a wonderful day, and if it's nice in your neighborhood, go out for a bike ride. Thank you for spending time with me. You take care.